Well, welcome, Gary. Welcome to the Real Talk.
Okay.
Yeah, Gary's here.
Take me to the promised land.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for coming in. We've crossed paths, we've talked, we went over a lot in the past couple of years. A lot of things have changed. And I want you to come in and tell your story a little bit. But anyways, before we get there, how are you? How is everything?
I'm doing well.
Yeah?
Doing well and living in the new world, as they would say.
Living in the new digital world that we're in.
There you go.
So everything, So the last couple of years, a lot of changes happened. But how is everything? I mean, business-wise, things-wise, everything is stable. Life is kind of similar back to normal now.
Well, there is
traveling.
There's no normal anymore. It's
okay.
it's all new.
Okay.
It's similar, but it's new. I mean, I travel now again, and I'm calling on accounts, and we're getting into accounts just about every day.
Okay, good.
But it's with a little more intrepidation, a little more. Why are you here? And you got to be pre-qualified to get in. You can't just walk in the door and say, "Hey, I'd like to introduce something new to you."
Yeah.
You got to have rhyme and reason why you go. And so, the prep work now is a lot more. You're doing a lot more qualification before you actually get in to have implementation. So
I think in the sales strategy, anybody who's in the salesman, in type of outside sales or sales in general, it doesn't matter what product you're selling, is facing that similar thing because they were doing maybe door calls to the offices or calls to wherever they're going. And it's hard because, the qualification, everybody's like, who are they? You're going to come in? What are you going to see? What's the purpose? And getting okay, we're ready. You can come in. The people are ready for you. First maybe even starting with virtual calls at the beginning or just telephone. It's like, okay, you're ready. You can come in on this day, and then whatever the product is, they're here. Because again, humans like doing business with humans, and in person, again, it builds the relationship. Virtual only goes so far, but when we're in it, it allows us to now virtual. In my opinions, we're more efficient than we ever been because we can call and touch more people than we ever have before. But the interpersonal is irreplaceable and it's priceless to the relationship building. But we need to, now it's good we can do both because you don't have to travel across, 3-4 hours in a plane. You can make that call quickly. Instead of doing it on a monthly basis, you can do it on a quarterly or bi-yearly basis to visit that person. So it helps, for that process. But from that area, so tell me a little bit. Gary, you come in from the rep side of the business. So tell me, how did you get into electronics industry and the representative's business?
Well, I've always lived on the dark side, so there's no reason why, just to be a rep is anybody can be a rep, as they would say. And they're probably not wrong. Okay. But I was a typical out-of-work sales manager that all of a sudden got laid off. And I said, hey, I can be a rep. Anybody can be a rep.
Were you in electronics? Take that, but were you in electronics before? How did you get into the electronics field?
I worked for a company called Burquest for the better part of 10 years, a little under 10 years. And I worked my way from being a local salesman to doing national accounts and some and national responsibilities. Yeah. And became product management on some of their key new materials and things of that nature. By getting to know the engineering base internally and working on new designs and all of that. So, we were instrumental in doing some design work at customers on some critical parts. Yeah. And so from there, like I say, I got laid off in times. I was the only person working for the company that in sales that was not living in Minnesota. Yeah. So I used to have to go back to Minnesota monthly. And it became, a challenge. So, we kind of butted heads in a lot of ways. But I was a typical sales guy. I could do anything. So here I am.
So through that process of, starting Burquest and coming through that, so electronics, what interests you in electronics? What was the, the draw or the product or the gadgets? What was the draw for you?
That's actually a very good question because I didn't grow up in the electronics industry. Okay. I was actually a gearhead. When I was a kid, I was a drag racer. Oh. I was a twister wrench guy. In fact, I was destined to become an industrial arts teacher at a high school and going into college and everything. And then I said, nah. I says that's there's a lot of grease, a lot of dirty fingernails involved in that. So I kind of evolved in college and started going with an engineering type background and everything. And then I realized that what I was trying to do, in engineering was going to put me behind closed doors in a lab. And I said, oh God, I can't handle that. I can't be behind a closed door in my house. So I kind of evolved into, well, I can talk to anybody, so let's get into sales. Yeah, that's how I kind of evolved into that. But I was in the public eye. I mean, when I was going through high school and college and everything, I worked in the grocery stores. Okay. So I was always around people. I was always conversing with people and getting to know my normal customers and getting, helping people and overcoming, angry people and all of that. And so it became a natural progression for me. It really never made a decision that I was going to get into sales. I just made a decision that I had to be around people.
Yeah, and that's put that into it's a training process. Even I said in the public eye, retail side, customer forward, customer facing, conversing, that skill of conversing and bringing energy and as I said, we love to talk, but it also trains the mind and trains the questions and trains the Q&A to have, especially if you're serving somebody or you're doing whatever service it is you're doing, or just being in front of somebody, hey, how you're doing, and then starting a conversation out of thin air, which creates that skill set that can allow for the salesmanship. But of course, you need to be a little extroverted to be there and put yourself out there. Yes. So build the confidence within yourself to be a little
very true. You have to be willing to weather the objections and take advice from people that maybe you don't fully believe in. Yeah. And but in the same respect, you listen to them and you have empathy for them, and you take a friendly ear to them, and then you learn something. Even if it's you learn something what not to do, you still learn something. And so that's kind of how I envision myself, as being a person that can be involved with people and listen to their challenges and how to overcome things. And from that, I've learned how to maintain my business.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So now taking it a little forward from the point of being a public eye and the service side, is you went to Burquest and learned. You worked. That was Burquest. Can you explain to me what was Burquest is doing? What products they were doing?
Burquest made thermal management materials. Is the division that I worked for. They were multi-divisional, but I hired on as a territory sales guy for thermal management materials. So heat transfer. Materials like Silpad and Thermoclad.
Okay, and that goes for the PC boards for heat, basically like thermal pads for the heat condensation for semiconductors, or what else would they use?
Heat is detrimental. If you create power, you have one of two things. You either have current or you have heat. Okay. Heat is detrimental to the output of current, so that's the reason why you have derating curves and power supplies and everything else. If you can manage the heat, you can run the power supply harder. So it's just a matter of managing the energy in a productive way that you can have better output.
Correct, because it increases in efficiency, and it can, and for moving forward from there. So you learned a lot of the manufacturing. So you visited a lot of manufacturers. You used that. So that's really, as you say, your training grounds to understand I would say electronics manufacturing. Correct.
That's my playground.
Yeah.
That's my happy place.
It's your happy place to go into.
In the old days, we used to walk in the back door with a 6-pack of beer and say, "Okay, let's go look around and go see what's happened." Yeah. Obviously, it's not that way nowadays, but nonetheless, it's still it's the happy place. I learn what's going on. I can walk down a production line and say, "Okay, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this," and I had no idea that they had this or they had that until I can actually see it on the production line. So
from that end, from Burquest to going into the rep, were you looking to be a rep? Or just looking back into the business? Were you looking on taking on a line or be work for distribution?
When I was let go from Burquest, I decided that I really had to be in business for myself. Okay. And in looking down that channel of where I was going to go and what I was going to do, it was basically, what's the investment? What do I have to do to get in business? And getting into the rep business is somewhat inexpensive to do so, because you're not buying assets. You're just investing your time and your energy. And bank account into how long it'll last until you get your first commission check.
From that side, so you started going into the rep side and becoming your own entrepreneur. What really thought about you? You're like, okay, I want to work for myself. I can't work with others. I want to lead people. What was that intuition?
I was a terrible employee.
Okay.
I always had an opinion, and seldom did it march to the likes of my employers. And I wanted to convince people of my opinion and demonstrate my opinion. And that was not always with welcome arms. Yeah. So I felt that as a rep, I could take ownership of where I go, what I do, and how I generate my my successes.
Yeah. Can you break down for us or for the audience or people, how does the rep business work and if it's similar to all fields, but how does it work into the electronic side that you're working in today?
So the IRS looks at us as independent contractors.
Okay.
So we are a outsourced service that, which is what I hate being referred to, but it's the fact. A company that elects to outsource their sales territory instead of having employees in the territory, they offload that territory, a geographical territory or an account territory, to somebody that is outside of the company, and they pay him a commission, a percentage of that sale. It's a unique way of that company managing their overhead by no sale, no salary. You make a sale, you know that you pay them a fixed commission percentage, whatever that is. So either success and expense, or failure and no expense. So that to the factory's side of it. So usually companies outsource their sales to an independent contractor when either in the beginning of a company or they're starting off, they can't afford to have employees, outside of the company throughout the world and everything. You've got people all around the world. I've got myself and 3 other people. But we hire on with a geographical area. Generally speaking, my company represents a geography of Southern California, the lower half of California, Clark County, Nevada.
Where does that break from? I always want to say, where does that break from Southern California?
San Luis Obispo.
San Luis,
actually,
SLO.
Just north, Los Osos.
Los Osos, okay. So that corrects. I always wonder, because to people, it's a rep. What is a break? So that's
93499. That's the break.
That's the break, and you come down to south toward the border, and then go into Nevada as well.
Yeah, Las Vegas falls into our territory. Okay. Generally speaking, by ERA territorial geographies. Yeah, so by the ERA territory geography, that normally falls into it. It either falls into our territory or falls into the Arizona territory. Okay,
and as being as you say, extension of the sales of the company you're representing, you're extension of the sales arm. You become their sales, local feet on the ground sales. How does that work with them for the marketing side? From either they shoot you the leads, or you have marketing, or you prospecting. How does that all come into play?
Well, I represent 18 companies. That means I have 18 gods that I report to. They're all different religions. They all have a different way of thinking. So to answer that question would be individual for each one of them. Okay. They have their own way of thinking and their own way of going to market. Okay. And none of them are exactly the same. Okay. So generally speaking, we try to take their marketing plan and fit that into how we go to market. So we have a philosophy of going to market as a whole. So our lines on our line card are built around synergy. So when we sell one line, we have at least 4 or 5 other lines that in the same application have applications. So in the customer's product, if we're selling terminal blocks, we know that in terminal blocks there's usually wire and cable going to a terminal block. We know that there's power coming to it, so there's power cords. We know that there's interconnect. We know that there's usually some sort of a switching device, so relays and things of that nature, switches. So that's how we build our line card around that synergy, so is that when we go to market, we're selling 4 or 5 lines.
So it's solution based. You can come in with a solution, not just with a single source product.
For the most part, yeah.
And be able to add value around that. Okay, we know what we can offer this. Do you have this? And add that because it does, I used to say, make it simple, like the upsell. Okay, you wanted a terminal block, but we can give you everything that works around it. Can we? Sometimes it's kind of hard because they already have decided their mind, but that allows that solution to come around and have more, as you say, more coverage and more of the ecosystem or the product that they're making.
You have to be able to take a lead from one factory and turn it into a lead from many factories. Yeah. And you have to be able to see how that one product that you're selling has the ability to help you sell the other products. Mm-hmm. And so you can't leave without presenting the system. Mm-hmm. So the way we put it, you sell the system. Mm-hmm. So, if you're selling an enclosure, what's inside the enclosure? Mm-hmm. If you're just selling the enclosure and walking away from the order, logic tells me that you should be asking the question, why are you walking away when you got an enclosure? What's inside? I mean, help me out here. Why am I doing that? Yeah. So, it's a philosophical thing. You have to have the products, the line card that supports what your vision is, mm-hmm. and how you want to be successful.
So coming to that is the value brought to your customer, because I can see a lot of the value was solution based, really adding value to the customer, being an extension of their engineering at the end of the day, being an extension of the engineering department to add resources that we're just a resource. We're not here to sell you. We can add and extend to give you solutions or possible solutions to to optimize your end result.
Yes.
And then, so how do you go about personally for your decision, what lines you brought on and what industries you wanted to target? How was that vision of that when you brought it to market to GL Smith?
Well, every product has its strength, where what they solve, what the problem are, that they solve. Some of them are commodity products, mm-hmm. so that it's everybody has it or everybody uses it. Mm-hmm. Some of them are very unique products, mm-hmm. that have very technical functions that solve a customer's problems. Mm-hmm. And some of them are just commodity in the sense that you can't live without it. It's just a matter of who do you choose to live with. Mm-hmm. And so, we have to marry all that together. Ideally, our job today is getting new business, NBOs. Mm-hmm. That's our charter by our factories. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hear what we did yesterday. They want to hear what we're doing tomorrow. Yeah. Back in the old days, we used to carry a pad and we used to write orders. Mm-hmm. We used to walk into my distributors and I'd walk out with an order. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen anymore. But in the same respect, you're helping those distributors, salespeople. So really, a rep today is a sales engineer. Okay. He's a field application engineer, okay. and that's really our charter today. So to answer your point, we have to know our factory's products. We have to understand what their function is. We have to understand how their product is best presented, how it best suited for the customer's application. And we also need to know their weaknesses. What's our competition better than us, and why, and how do we overcome those objections? A customer in today's market, an OEM in today's market, is looking for one of 3 things, and that's it. They're looking for innovation, technology, mm-hmm. that takes them to the new promised land. Mm-hmm. They're looking for supply chain, being able to get it, mm-hmm. hence distribution, or they're looking for price. Everything else is assumed. Quality today is assumed. If you don't have it, you just don't get it. So they're looking for something that is one of those 3 is going to solve it. If you don't have one of those 3, at least one of those 3, or 2, or all of them, then you're going to have an uphill battle to complete that relationship. Technology is the best because you get paid for technology, so it's usually on the high scale of profitability. Supply chain is important. So like we sell upwards to 70% of our sales go through distribution, folks such as yourselves. And so it's important that we maintain that cycle or build that pyramid of relationship with salespeople going into the field. The price thing, nobody wants to be on the price. Nobody wants to be the price leader because it's usually the lowest margin and it's the most at risk. And if you're measuring your business based on risk, the person that's the cheapest guy in town is going to be the person with the highest risk.
So that brings up to a good point. When you go into that solution base and come into the price and demand supply, because there are a lot of people, I would say, multiple parties involved in this process. Who sets the price?
Well, market conditions set the price.
Okay.
If it's supply chain and you can't get it, you get a premium.
Yeah.
Like it is today, with all the supply chain problems that we have in today's marketplace, people are willing to pay all kinds of premiums. I would say that price is based on competition and knowing your competition. Okay. The biggest guys in the marketplace are not normally the cheapest guys in the marketplace. You look at TE tends to get out of the business when the margins go down. So they usually offload that and move on to the next technology because they're a technology leader. But an offshore Asian line is going to take that product, whatever it may be, and they're going to build it in higher volume and build it in more economical volume and less costly materials and tooling and things of that nature in order to bring that product to market in a cheaper fashion. Of course, you normally lose quality when you do that, but at some point, product can take a hit on value than when it comes to price.
Yeah, because the price, speaking of today, price is not number one. It comes to delivery, lead time delivery and quality, and then price is actually now, it's not really the leader at all because of the supply chain break we've had. But before we get there, for the process of demand and working with distributors, how do you work with them? Because you are, of course, you get the orders don't go, do they come to you and the distributor at the same time? How do you guys derive that where the customer places the order? Is it go directly to them?
I seldom see orders.
Oh, you seldom see orders.
I seldom see orders, unless it's a big one.
Okay.
Then I like to see it.
Okay.
Generally speaking, the everyday orders, the ongoing repeat orders, they usually just flow through the system.
Okay.
Back in the day, we used to handle all the inside sales. Okay. So for our factories, used to be in the rep business, for every outside person you usually had 2 inside people. Okay. Now we exist without inside people for the mere fact of the matter is with instant, communication and social media and everything else. Each guy handles his own territory in our company. But I think the main thing is we follow the design, and when the design gets on the AVL, it generally either goes on a direct basis and the factory handles it, or it goes through distribution and the distribution salespeople are in it, and then we stay in contact with that OEM that things are running smoothly, usually at the engineering level. Okay. And unless we hear that there's a supply chain problem, we tend not to want to hear from buyers because buyers either, by the time they get to me, they want a lower price. Yeah. By the time they get to me, they want an expediter. By the time they get to me, they are challenging, the reason why they buy from you.
So the inside sales now today becomes, example, you say 70% through distribution becomes a distributor. The inside sales of distribution, that's your inside sales that you work with. So the orders flow through that process. Hopefully, you guys, hopefully, that to have that communication. And when having multiple distributors, do you guys work with systems? How do those analytics come back to you on a base to see? Because as I said, I design something in, I work for a long time, maybe 6 months, a year, orders start coming in, that flow to come in. Do you talk to the distributor or you go to the manufacturer?
Well, usually we're at the manufacturer because we're looking for newer business. Yes. So we're in a constant design. So if you're established at an OEM, you want to maintain that relationship. Sales is still a full contact sport. You got to have relationships. You got to maintain those relationships. It's different today than it was before, but you still have to maintain relationships. But to the point, Usually the distributor maintains the account, maintains the flow of the product that's been designed in. They usually maintain the challenges of, rejects or quality issues or late deliveries and all that stuff, just distribution. By the time we hear about it in that level, it's the distributors coming to us because they need us to help solve the problem.
Yeah, to get involved.
Yes.
To get involved because you have the relationship is with you and the customer working. You guys have the relationship. They pass the ball back to you. Say we have an issue. There's a price issue. There's a quality issue. There's a problem, and
it's usually because I'm bigger than anybody else, and it's usually because my middle name is Guido, and I'm normally beating people up in order to get what I want. So, but generally speaking, yes, you're exactly right.
Yeah,
they're looking for solutions. So
looking for the solutions to that. So now fast forward to today's world where we are in the supply chain crisis and this demand situation. How have you gotten involved in the last year? Because a lot more fires are happening. So you're now much more probably plugged into your customers and supply chain than you've ever been.
Well, you and I both have containers sitting out in the port of LA right now. It's just sitting on the water, soaking in the sun. I have several containers out there today. I'm sure you do too. So we're actually, we're solving the customer's immediate nervousness about getting something on time, which isn't going to happen. Yeah. So you have to manage that. You have to bring the reality to the table in a fashion that is sensitive to their feelings and sensitive to their needs, but reality of communicating the real nature of what's going on. I have as much product in the air today as I do on the water today. And I have a lot of product on the water. So there's a lot of product flying in the air. I've had people fly thousands of pounds of product in from Asia just because they can't live without it and pay 3 times the price in order to keep their production lines running. So we have to be sensitive to that. We have to understand that there's a big investment on that. There's an ouch factor there. And those customers aren't happy about that ouch factor. So if I'm doing my job really well, they're going to walk out of it saying, boy, Gary really did everything he possibly could to help me, and he really understands what's going on. And that's the real challenge, is to be able to listen to your customer and try to help the best you can. And when you can't, you continue to try. And if they see that you continue to try on their behalf, they like you more.
Yeah, that's why I just come right at that point is leading with empathy, empathizing for them, listening to them with the process of, it's not rocket science. It's just having empathy and understand because they're under their gun too. They have management to go under, they're reporting to their process. They have a line down. They can't ship. They can't invoice. No revenues coming in. These are a lot of challenges. A lot of companies are facing these days in all industries, not even just the electronics industry. To be able to get that. And I agree with you. That's that leadership, that process to take them through, console them, and understand what's going on. Because you've been in the industry, you've had experience in this industry for a few decades now, and you've been through some of these cycles. This is a super cycle, as you would say, in demand cycle. There have been some cycles where there's been price increases, some lead time issues and things. But this, as you're saying, is an unprecedented cycle that we're in because the whole world's feeling it. In my industry, 2 years ago, some of the MLCCs and resistance were on shortage. In 2010, some of the TI semiconductors. In 2000s was the passive, again, the tantalum chips and all this stuff. And that was the dot-com era. We went through.
Very true.
So there have been things that you've been experiencing. And so there could be other buyers, there could be other people in some of these companies that haven't had that experience. So that leadership that you gain, that knowledge, you can explain to them, hey, we've been through this, we can get through this and work together. And again, that builds that relationship. It builds the validity of your consoling them. And they can sleep. Again, they can't sleep better at night, but they can sleep that you're there to support them that for long term.
Yes. And you really got to be careful that you're not trying to pull the wool over their eyes. You really got to be careful that you're actually giving them as factual information as you possibly can. And sometimes you can't give them all the information because your factories don't allow you to. I mean, a rep is only as good as the factory allows them to be. So if a factory is going to have problems that they're not going to be open about, then the rep can't be open about it. Okay, but in the same respect, the factory is who pays our check. The customer is who generates the check, but the factory is who pays the check. So we have to be sensitive to both parties, and that's an important relationship that we have to keep those people all together and happy with one another. And when somebody gets unhappy, you got to catch it. You got to be listening to it.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Leading a sales team or process and people, it's the same thing of there are stuff. There's behind the scenes information that happens at factories. A disaster happens, products happen, and you have to know when you can give that data, you can't give that data, hold some things back because of that process. Because you're representing a manufacturer, and there could be a quality issue that, just hypothetically, it could be something that happened. A fire happened, something happened, a material was bad, and sometimes they don't want to disclose it and say, hey, you know what? Our lead time's being pushed out 4 to 6 weeks. Because of this, tell we just have to come up with a process and say we apologize. We'll do whatever it takes. We'll even pay for the shipping. We'll pay for whatever it takes to be able to bring it in on time.
Yep.
Those things happen. These disasters happen. So for the last say a couple decades, you've been in this industry.
Boy, those decades are adding up.
Yeah,
Aren't they?
a couple decades. I've been in it myself a couple decades, so I know I've been in. I've been in this business since the 90s myself personally, so I know how I've seen it. But what are your insights of the process? I would say the ecosystem and the infrastructure of the distribution, representatives, and manufacturer. How has it evolved during, let's say, the last 20 from 2000s? How has it evolved? Has it with technology, the communication, the marketing? How has it evolved, and what do you see today, and what do you see that should be improving for the future?
Well, in the world of a rep, the hardest word in the English vocabulary is change. Okay. People fight change more than they fight anything because they don't want to lose what they already have. So they fear change. They fear the unknown. But change is inevitable. It's going to happen. If you embrace it and you prepare to deal with it in a productive fashion, you can evolve from it. If you fight with it and refuse to accept it, then as the change continues to go forward, you're just going behind. You're just falling behind. So change is inevitable. It's the willingness to accept those changes and to move forward with the reality of what is available and what's going to happen. You sell crystals. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows in the crystal industry there was a big fire, mm-hmm. and a plant went down, and the world pretty much came to an end on a whole series of products that nobody could do, and everybody's production got in a standstill until everybody turned around and started to redesign their boards and redesign their products to go with other timing devices and to be able to do that. It created a huge industry. Same thing with the tantalums. There was a tantalum shortage. There was I think there's 3 major suppliers of tantalums, and they all decided that they weren't going to play in the sand with anybody, and they were all going to hold on to their toys and lock up their toolbox or their toy boxes. Those market conditions will come about. It's no different than what it is today. Mm-hmm. Today we're in situations that are totally out of our control. So we have to adjust to it. How do we mitigate it? I heard on the drive down here, that we got all these containers sitting out there. Well, one of the things about a container is you pay for containers, I pay for containers. A container 2 years ago cost $3,000 to come from Hong Kong to mm-hmm. Port of LA. Today, that container costs about $22,000, yep. and it's continuing to go up. That's a price of goods. So you have to go to your customer. You have to say, well, we're there. Well, you compound that with the price of copper, the price of silver, the price of semiconductors, and the price of everything else. And this customer is all of a sudden working on a $10 part that's now a $50 part just on cost of goods. Yeah. And so you have to try to solve those problems. But it's the guy that can come up with a solution that makes it as palatable as the market will allow it to be, mm-hmm. is the guy that is going to succeed. And that means that you have to listen to the problems and try to find solutions, even if you're not the solution in itself. So I'm not sure if I'm really answering your question, but the point to it all is that we as business people realize that our customers have lives that they need to maintain, and it's our duty to help them maintain that life the best we can with our services. Yeah. And that's where we come. Yeah. So I just say through the time, services need to evolve. You need to evolve to be able to help them and move forward. How has technology allowed you to improve your services? Well, that damn little cell phone makes me 24 hours. Everybody calls me at all hours of the day. I talk to China all hours of the night. I'm sure you do too. So, you know, it's an instantaneous information channel nowadays. There is no downtime. Back in the day, you used to be able to get in a car and drive between accounts, and you had quiet time. Now you're driving down the road, going from one account to another, and it's really, you're just in the office. Yep. The office just happens to have wheels. So technology has taken us to all kinds of steps. In some ways, it's slowed business up. Emails have drastically slowed up business. What we used to do on a phone in a conversation back and forth and have questions and answers, now people put it in an email, and it takes 20 emails to get what a simple phone call could resolve. But that's the way businesses run nowadays. So now you have to figure out how to do that in the best way possible. And so there's challenges in always. Technology isn't always the best solution.
Yeah. To that point of technology best solution is what's happened in the world the last 2 years. It's been pushed us to be more distant as possible as we ever were, because we couldn't leave so technology did improve
Very true.
to be able to touch more people. So how in that aspect of technology, because it's the cell phone, FaceTime, video, it's been around for 5+ years. It hasn't, 6, it's been there for a while, but we never really used it. Nope. We weren't engaged in it because we had no reason, because it was the traditional style of telephone call, email, we can visit, we can go. But now for the salesperson, the businessman, the person traveling around the world, traveling the States, it has completely changed the way they behave because of the technology has improved the amount of touches you can touch your customer. You can get on a quick call, 10-minute virtual call. Hey, how you doing today? But even the smile, because phone and email, in my opinion, is what I always tell myself. It's like the emails these days are robotic. There's no emotion. Even though you try to be sarcastic, you never know how the other person reads it,
exactly
right? The same thing I tell to all my, because today with the instant messaging chats, the Teams chats, people have sarcasm, and an emoji is not going to change the way things happen. People throw emoji, but these are the processes. And I wanted to ask you through that is for the last 2 years, since we've all embraced the virtual world, we've all embraced what's happening, and how has that improved? Has it improved, or has it not improved your way of touching customers to that process?
Well, it's a combination of all the technologies, and you really can't let one fall shorter than the other. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're going to do emails back and forth because you get hundreds of emails a day. Yeah. And so you answer the emails and you pass it on. So everything that we do, everything we touch, we give to somebody else. Yeah. So we are never the collection plate or the final destination. We are always a middleman of a transaction. Yeah. So it's important that we communicate from one to the other. But it's also important that we actually create the relationship of the value of what we're asking to be done. So you have to communicate in your emails a level of friendship, but also a level of importance. And then you have to back that up with the immediacy of what it takes. And so if it's something that's really immediate, I may send an email, but then I pick up the phone and I call them and say, hey, I just sent you an email, but this is coming. I wanted you to know what's going on. If there's any questions, make sure you get back to me. A combination of technologies is really what's taking place now. It used to be you just walk in, talk to them, and then walk out. Yeah. But now it's that backup. And the documentation trail has never been more evident now.
Transparent.
That's right. I mean, you can go back years and find an email that somebody said, well, I could give that part to you for $1 if you bought 100,000 pieces.
Correct.
And I said, well, yeah, but that was a year ago, or that was 10 years ago. That was, but it's changed. Yeah. So you got to have that level of relationship. Sales is still a full contact sport. However you create that full contact is different in every situation, but it's still the most important aspect of a sale.
Now going to that technology point, do you, in GL Smith, do you guys use a CRM system?
We do. We use a simple one. Okay. It's called ACT. Okay. It's been around forever. It's all kinds of evolutions to it, but it's a sample contact system. Our contact management system has evolved. It's more Outlook than it is anything.
Okay.
It's more cell phone directories than it is anything. The contact management system is important, but every one of our factories has their own communication channels, CRM, whatever it is, whether it's Salesforce or Lotus or whatever it may be. And so we operate within a system within them. I try to keep it simple because reports and information is the least important thing to me. Developing the sale is the most important thing to me. So everything else after that is make work.
The after sale. After sale and the service work. Yeah.
So, but we have to communicate the information to our factories in a productive way. We utilize a simple Excel format in Dropbox, and we have our reports, and we share that with all the salespeople. So we have living documents versus reports. We have, in those living documents, we have our target accounts, we have our follow-ups, we have our MBOs, we have all of the challenges that we have to do in the field inside those reports, and they become living documents. If it's a living document, that means everybody's contributing, everybody is seeing it, everybody's using it. If it's
collaborative,
if it's just a database that people are entering into, I don't see the return. I don't see the value of all the entry with very little output. So to me, there's got to be input, but there's got to be output to it. So, if there's output to it, then I'm all for it. Let's do that.
Well, at the end of the day, it's garbage in, garbage out. The basic things. You put the right input in, you're not going to get what you expect out. And as you say, a working document or a live sharing document that's dynamic, that changes through processes. Because we all know, and we all do you get the revision of Excel sheet 5 times back and forth in the emails. Like, which one's the right one? Like, which one did we leave out? Some they don't put the revision of it. They just keep sending the same one. But today with technology, we can actually, one working file. It's a working file.
Yes.
We can change it. We can work on it together. We can share it. We can do a screen share, and we can work on it and see things are changing dynamically, which allows things to progress. And as you said, you brought up, like, things are moving faster than ever. We're working faster than ever. We're being touch points faster than ever. That's that aspect of the customer experience, because it all comes back to, if we're all salespeople, doesn't matter what person, you're all salesperson. Doesn't matter what you do in your life. You're selling a product, you're doing something. You can be a CPA, you can be a teacher, you're a salesperson. You're selling whatever knowledge you have or experience to that service, to your client or wherever it's coming through. So we all are in sales, and that methodology of what we carry and be able to give that customer experience, because being in the B2B world, it was, as I say, still traditional salesman, but the B2C world has accelerated the way customer experience is, because we want instant gratification. We want it now. How have you seen that in your experience? Is that the kind of, I always say, Amazon effect, or is that type of effect? You feel that some of your customers are asking to be faster, or why can't you give this to me now, or why can't it be delivered? You feel that happening through that transition?
Well, everything is, they want instant communication, meaning instant results. So because they have the ability to have instant communication globally, they expect instant results. I get calls every day. Well, where's my order today from my factory in China? Well, okay, I'll find that. I'll get you an update, but I'm going to have to wait till the factory opens up at 5 o'clock my time, and I'm going to have to talk to the factory, and I'm going to have to get that, whether it's email or whatever. I'll get you that answer. It'll be tomorrow. I can't wait tomorrow. I got to have that now. I'm going into a planning meeting. I got to have that for me right now. It says, okay, well then this is what the information we have up to this point in time. If you want the most updated information, I got to wait until I can get that from the powers to be. That's dealing with the reality of what is real capability versus what is feeding them just information that they want to hear. The worst thing a salesman can do is to tell somebody what they want to hear and not know that it's true. So you can't
assume
do that. Yeah.
Assumptions. That's assumptions. That's the number one thing. Assuming that. From moving to that point of the industry changing, I mean, do you see the rep model or the rep distribution, and then changing and evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you think that whole process is going to change, or how it's digitalized, or because the engineer still needs the same support? Do you think there's going to be some type of intermediaries to change the marketplace ecosystem?
Rephood has changed dramatically over the years. And we're a much needed commodity because we're a direct percentage of sales. No sale, no cost. A sale, it's a fixed cost. It's a fixed percent of the cost of goods. But the reality of it is that factories want more control. And with that control, they want to be able to control your time and everything. And so the world of being a rep is a much different world than it was, because factories, once they start paying a rep a certain level of money, they start to look at that check going out every month and say, well, what am I getting in return for that check? You know, and when they didn't have the sales, they needed it. But when they have the sales, they're questioning whether they still need it. And so a rep has to convince their factories on a daily basis that their value is meaningful enough that they need to maintain the relationship. And so, you know, a good portion of my job function as the owner is to maintain the relationships with my factories and the value of what we're gonna do for them, and making sure that we understand what they want done in order for us to achieve those goals. Sometimes they're achievable, sometimes they're not.
Yeah, because they can come up with new strategies, new marketing strategy, new digital, just all, especially now in this world, there's a lot of new strategies to try to the reps, the salesmen. Okay, we need this type of output. They want more output because, again, as I said, over time, if a couple of years, business are good, they're paying commissions, business is great. Like, okay, what else can we get? How do we improve this? How do we increase the sales? How do we increase the margin? How do we increase the market share? You know, what else can we do? And it's, as I said, Gary, hey,
everybody wants more.
Yeah, everybody, because it's typical human nature. You know, the greed comes to us because we always want more. Even though we get it finally, like, oh, but can we do more? Can we push it more?
Right.
But, you know, there is a inflection point where it goes to a point where it doesn't make sense. And that's where, as I say, from your experience, you know, and you can also educate some of the principals and the companies, manufacturers that come in. But as well as, I think manufacturers need to also do research of markets, because sometimes they're just good at making a product. They don't really understand the sales side of it. So that's why people like yourself, companies like yourself and other, understand the sales side of it, understand how to care, to take care of them, nurture them, empathize with them, understand the process, because there is an intermediary, there's a cushion, but also there's a service. That service is not just cushion, there's a service that's been given. And that's what I wanted to ask, that change and that evolution through technology, the process of how that whole ecosystem through supply chain and from inception of a product design all the way to the distribution, to the manufacturing, and then at the end of the day, that product going out, being produced for the end customer. How is that going to change in this new, I would say, digital world?
Well, everybody thinks logic prevails. Seldom does. Companies operate differently from each other, and everyone has a different dynamic. Some companies are run by engineering. Some companies are run by salespeople. God forbid. Some companies are managed by bean counters. God forbid. And each one of them has their own area of desires and wants, and what they think is right. Obviously, a bean counter wants wants dollars, and they want profitability. Yeah. And so they're never going to be competitive in the marketplace. An engineer wants to make the world's greatest widget, regardless of what the cost is. And of course, a sales guy wants to promise the world and can seldom produce. But you know, it's the mixture of all of that is where you kind of come to. So you got to figure out what, you know, as a rep, we have to figure out, how is this company being managed? What's their what do they want? What do they, and how do they envision getting to that point? And is that feasible? We've had to walk away from factories that have very unreasonable demands because they don't have a good grasp on what how the market perceives them to be. Some of them think they're the world's greatest, and you know, they're the 16th guy down in the chain to to be able to produce something. So you have to bring them back to reality. And so the dynamic is you have to be real. You have to understand what the reality of their product and what their business model is. Sometimes you can bring them the greatest opportunity in the world and they walk away from it because they have a minimum profit margin of 20% and you brought something in at 19% and they're not willing to get down to that, to that 19%, and they're hard fast about it. And so now we start to have questions about why, so I hate the word no. So when somebody tells me no, that's a bad word. And so I always ask them why, and I want to understand why. If it's no, it can't be done, then explain to me why can't it be done.
You know what? That's what your curiosity leads you, because your why. Everything it is why. If you can't get something done, why, and how can I improve it for next time to get that yes? What can we do? What the process is in play? Because let me understand how this machine works, so I can understand why there is a no or why there is a defense of that to stopping this to move forward. One of the questions I have, I know we were talking a little earlier for you, is the industry in itself of the ecosystem of some scarcity, some talent that needs to come in, and the evolution of succession and process moving forward. So right now, as we discussed a little bit, you are in the point of trying to find new talent. Is it talent you're trying to find new engineers or just salespeople? What is it that you're trying to mature or try to cultivate in your company?
I'm looking for a personality.
Okay.
I can teach the product knowledge. Okay. I can teach how to make a sales call. I can't teach the common sense. Okay. I need somebody that can understand that we all need to learn continuously, myself included, and I have to have somebody that is open to hearing the word no more than they'll ever hear the word yes. I always liken it to a baseball player. A great hitter is 300. Mm-hmm. That means 7 out of 10 times they're not getting a hit. So only 3 out of 10 times are they getting a hit. So a 300 hitter is considered good, and a 400 hitter is near impossible to be, and that's less than 50%. So the point to it all is that to find the talent takes the personality. The person in itself is the dynamic. I can teach all the rest of that stuff. Yeah. What I can't teach is the desire, the fire in their gut. I used to always say I'd rather have to put water on somebody than to have to light a match under their butt, to do it. So the guy that gets up in the morning looking for a place to go is the guy I want to find. So everything else I can work with. It's that fire in their gut that matters. Getting the expertise, sometimes it hurts us to have somebody that is extremely experienced at what we do, because then they come in with preconceived ideas, and no two reps operate the same. I could not exist in most of the other rep companies that are out there because I don't do things the same way as they do it. And conversely, they couldn't exist in my world as well, just because we operate differently. And so it's every distributor is different. Every distributor has a different dynamic of how they go to market. Some are telemarketers. Some of them are highly engineering stuff. Some of them sell very active products. Some of them sell passive electromechanical. Yeah. So every distributor is different. And so, you have to find somebody that fits your makeup, your personality, your company's way of going out to business, and then you can help guide them along. But the biggest problem is that the new workers don't want to stick around. They want to learn it and move. Yeah, they want to turn and burn.
And that in this business, it's a long-term business. It's not a quick turn. It can take 6 months to a year to a couple of years for a project to come to fruition. And that point is a lot of investment in there within the company, the resources into that person to do that sale, and that instant affirmation. That's one thing is that. It's kind of sad to say, is the technology and social media worlds, that instant gratification and affirmation that we're going to get something quick and hit and run. Like, you got it. Oh, this is great. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. And the cycle, even though the product cycles have gone faster in consumer products, but I think most of the products that our company sells, they have more legacy. They got 5 to 10, 20 year product. They're in a cycle. they don't go there's not the product cycle is not every 6 months like a cell phone is. It's not churning like that. It's a longer product cycle, and it uses the same components and process, and it takes time to build it. And it's to having that patience and understanding that you're adding value to a product that's going to build to change something. It can change someone's life. It can change the way people work. It can change something out there. And it's to have that understanding, that ownership, and you're in for the long haul. And as I said, myself too, it's the challenge of the new workforce that the world is, they want the instant, they want it now. They don't want to learn it. They don't want to, and the failures, it's hard because we go through a lot of adversity. There's a lot of adversity through it, and I know we've talked about this is, they don't like to be told that they don't like to fail. This comfort for them is not comfort. They like to be in comfort. We all like to live in comfort, but the biggest growth in life comes in discomfort, the biggest learning lessons and processes. And it's just like instilling that into the generation that, hey, we can do this together. You're going to fail. I'll hope we work together through this.
Well, they're all trying to, a lot of them are trying to win the lottery and get it instantaneously without having to earn it. And by meaning earning it, meaning that they don't have to learn their craft, refine their craft, improve their craft, and then actually go off and do the nuts and bolts of what it takes to perform in their craft. And like you said, the instantaneous social media mentality out there is instant gratification. But it's still the world that we as owners have to operate under. We have to try to find those people that can corral them. So now we become motivators and rah-rah cheerleaders, if nothing else. But it's that hard balance to try to find the person that has that fire in their gut to want to learn. But I still believe that they're out there. They're just different, and we have to mature. Luckily, I have kids and grandkids, and so they tell me how wrong I am all the time, and so that keeps me on a level playing field. But at the end of the day, you just got to keep going at it. You just can't give up.
Yeah. I 100% agree, because as a leader, leading by example, is that we have to keep moving forward. We have to evolve, and I love how you said that we hit a road bump the last couple of years through a pandemic. If you leaned into it, you kept going forward, you were going to survive and come out of it on the winning. A lot of companies have. They've come up on the outside. They're gaining over the last year because you know what? They went in. They say, you know what? We have to get down and dirty. We're going to go through this. We're here. We're in it together. We're going to get through it, and we're going to come out even stronger than we were before. And with any adversity, that's how it works. It doesn't matter what happens in life.
And that key word that you used repeatedly was we.
Yeah.
It was we as a team, we together. I'm doing this with you. I'm going through this experience with you. Mm-hmm. It's not you do it for me. It's not you have a job, get it done this way. This is the way. No, we together will get through it. And I will listen to what you have to say if you'll do the same with me, recognizing that I have a number of years of experience and you have a desire to get those years of experience. And so it's that we thing. And, there's no I in team. There's all those little sayings and everything. But the reality of it is that is the truth behind how you maintain a business in this world, in today's marketplace, because you can't keep people if they aren't happy, if they don't believe. Yeah. If they don't believe in you, and they don't believe in your system, and they don't believe in your trust, and they don't believe in not just you as a person, but as the whole philosophy of what you represent, then you're never going to hang on to those people. So you have to convince them that you're there for them. They're more important. Quite honestly, they're more important than I am.
Because we're working for them. Yeah, they're the fuel. They're the. You might be the fuel, but they're their engine. And if you can't, you can feel them, but they're not working. If the engine's not running, it's just. That's the same thing. I always say I'm nothing without my people. I'm just a fuel and shut some of the chief entertainment officer, as I say, to make it fun and have it, and let's move forward together and pull them through that adversity.
So you got to share in that success. Yeah. You have to share. You have to share the wealth. You have to share the decision making. You have to share the problems. You have to share so as that they feel like they're part of it. Part of it.
Last question I have for you is before we wrap this up, because it's been it's run by real fast.
I'm only 23 years old. I don't look well.
like we are. What is, for technology, because we're in the tech industry, we're all the tech components. So what do you see really, because with your customers, what excites you for the future of technology? And then especially in this decade, what are you looking forward to?
Well, new companies are starting every day. New challenges are starting every day in regards to products and the things that we sell are evolving on a daily basis. I'm excited always about trying to find the latest widget that I can be the best and fastest and greatest to market in. But I quite honestly, my biggest interest at this stage of my career is to maintain and develop those relationships that are so dear and meaningful to me. And with my customers, I mean, they're not customers, they're friends. And to embrace with them, the successes and all of that. So, yeah, I'm on the downside of the slope, as they would say, but I really enjoy what I do and probably will do it till I die. But I think the technologies are just going to continue to go through the ceiling. I mean, it used to be something was this big, and today it's this big, and tomorrow it's going to be this big, and what's involved in getting it to that point. And I think it's just a matter of time that you have to learn what that is. And so I want to be ahead of the curve. I want to learn what that means in my world. Yeah. So that's
fine. Your phone. Yes, that's okay.
Oh, okay.
But over. Yeah, I mean, as you said, it is exciting, and that excitement, that fuel that fuels you is what leads you through the business and through adversity. Like, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's out there. I want to add value to the product, whatever they're building that can change, also my things change change life, improve the way science, improve certain things we want to do to give there. There is a lot of medical fields as we are in, and these are things like, how can we be a part of changing something that can improve wellness, mental clarity, and the way we work today, and the efficiency of process. And at the end of the day, it contributes to the success of the business as well, but we're contributing to others. And just like we talked about, is paying it forward, giving it forward, paying it forward, doing what we can to help others around us, to have everybody succeed, and through the process of having that circle and having the relationships and friends. But at the end of the day, we are in a very dynamic industry. Everybody knows who we are today because we're in the supply chain, we're in the world design, which is fascinating. We are the celebrities now, it is. I mean, at the end of the day, we are the celebrity. Like, oh, you were the, I didn't know, it's like some places I didn't know. But what I did is like, oh, Gary, I didn't know oh yeah, I'm in it. I have containers, they're there, products, are trying to get your, like, oh wow, you're the part of, because it brings that that awareness. And I think our industry needed that awareness from all the other people in the world, so we can really see we're the foundation of helping the gadgets in the world, because it's all electronics. We're moving forward faster than we ever will. We're not going to go backwards. We're building the foundation of the the new world, as you say, every day, one step forward, and we're building that. And it's really exciting. So I love to hear your perspective. It's so fascinating. And thank you today for coming on.
Oh,
I learned so much from you. I learned from you gave so much input and the wisdom, the process, and, guided through the process of the rep industry and how it's come through, how you got here. It's so fascinating to learn. And I hope you enjoyed it, and you shared a lot of knowledge.
Well, I firmly believe in paying it forward. I firmly believe in my industry and the people within it. I love them to death. They've made me who I am today, and however I can help, I'm here to give back.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Gary. Thank you for everything. And
I only have one question for you.
Yes.
Am I going to walk out with a PO today?
Whatever you need.
There you go.
Whatever you need. Whatever you
now
need.
I'm set.
You see that? You know what? That sales tactic right there. You talked. Hey, that's a great sales tactic.
There you go. Well, wise old man once told me you don't ever walk out without asking for the order.
Yeah.
Even if it's not there to get.
I love it.
Got to ask for the order.
Well, I love it. Well, thank you very much, Gary.
I thank you.
Thank you. And we're out.